They say betrayal feels like a stab in the back. But when it's delivered face to face by someone who once kissed your cheek and called you Mom, the blade sinks deeper. Get out. We want our space. Those were the words that cut through. The quiet afternoon air, sharp and final. Words I never imagined would come from Shelby, my daughter-in-law, standing in the doorway of the craftsman home I bought with my late husband in the heart of Ashland, Oregon. My son, Daniel, stood behind her, silent. Silent. That silence hurt more than her words. If you're listening to this, maybe you've been there too. Maybe you've felt the weight of love unreturned, of kindness mistaken for weakness. I'd love to hear where you're tuning in from. Share in the comments, and please consider subscribing to the channel. This space is for all of us who've been forced to start over, not by choice, but by betrayal. I'm speaking to you from Oregon, and this is my story. It all began with a drawer I hadn't opened since my husband Russell passed. I was dusting his old writing desk, half expecting to find a forgotten receipt or dried-out pen. Instead, I found the first crack in the world I thought I knew. Divorce papers. Daniel's name stared back at me from the top, printed in crisp, black ink. He hadn't told me. My only son. Not a word about the failing marriage, the unraveling vows, the end of something I had thought was solid. It felt like betrayal, wrapped in secrecy. I stood there, frozen, the document trembling in my hand. My reflection stared back at me from the old mirror Russell had gifted me for our 40th anniversary. A mirror now dulled with age and memories. My face, once full of softness and laughter, now mapped with fine lines carved by grief and silence. Mom? Sorry I'm late. Daniel's voice snapped me back to the present as he rushed into the foyer, still in his navy button-up from the office. He looked tired, too tired for a man in his early 50s. Work was a madhouse today. I forced a smile and smoothed my skirt. Lunch is warm. I didn't tell him what I'd found. If he wanted to open up, I would wait. That's what mothers do. We wait. We give space. We hope. That afternoon, over his favorite chicken pot pie, a recipe Russell perfected back in '82, Daniel finally said it. I've been seeing someone. Shelby Carson. I blinked, nearly choking on my water. Shelby? As in Rebecca Carson's daughter? He nodded, eyes lighting up like he was 17 again. Yeah, we reconnected at that art fundraiser, last fall. She's different now, Mom. She really gets me. Shelby. I remembered her vividly, golden hair, confident smile, always needing the spotlight. She used to come over with her mother and rearrange my knickknacks when she thought I wasn't looking. Now, in her late 40s and twice divorced, she was apparently Daniel's second chance at happiness. If you're happy, then I'm happy, I said, the lie like ash on my tongue. Because that's what mothers do. In 3 months, they were engaged. In 6, I found myself setting the dining table for their engagement dinner. In my home. My home. Shelby breezed in like a realtor at an open house. Oh, this chandelier is so vintage, she said, eyeing the hand-cut crystal fixture Russell had installed with his own hands. It's not about value, I told her. It's about memories. Daniel pulled me aside after dessert. We're struggling, Mom. My tech investments tanked. And well, we're looking for a place to live. I looked into my son's eyes and saw the boy who once cried when he broke a vase and tried to glue it back with honey. The same boy who called me from college just to say he missed home. So I offered them one of the rentals Russell and I had, bought years ago, the bungalow on Willow Street. I told them they could stay as long as needed, but I kept the deed in my name. As I handed them the keys, Shelby gave me that polished magazine cover smile and said, Well, it's a bit outdated, but we'll make it livable. I should have known then. That wasn't a smile. It was a warning. It began with unanswered phone calls. Not all at once. No, at first it was just a missed call here, a delayed text there. I told myself they were settling in, adjusting. But deep down, I knew. I knew the difference between someone who is busy and someone who is drifting. And Daniel was drifting. From me. I used to write things in a little brown leather journal, a habit I picked up during my years as an English teacher at Ashland High. It helped me sort out truth from emotion. Tuesday, called Daniel about Sunday dinner. No answer. Left message. Thursday, Shelby picked up. Said they had plans. No follow-up from Daniel. I told myself it wasn't a pattern. But even the journal didn't believe me. One gray Wednesday, I baked his favorite, lasagna with bechamel and fresh basil, wrapped it carefully, and drove to Willow Street. The early spring air was cool and damp, thick with the scent of moss and new rain. My hands trembled slightly as I rang the doorbell, the warm dish cradled in my arms like an offering. Shelby answered the door in yoga pants and a fitted sweatshirt, her blonde hair tied in a loose knot that somehow still looked styled. "Elaine! Wow, this is unexpected," she said, her voice pitched slightly higher, eyes blinking a bit too fast. "I thought you two might like a home-cooked meal," I said, stepping inside without waiting for permission. The house smelled like lavender candles and lemon-scented cleaner, not a trace of lasagna or home. The warmth that Russell and I had poured into every corner of that house had been scrubbed out and replaced with clean lines and cold edges. The antique console table was gone, replaced by something sleek and black from a catalog. Daniel came out of his office, glasses on his forehead, eyes surprised. "Mom, you didn't call." I was in the neighborhood. I smiled tightly. Thought I'd stop by. Shelby took the casserole dish with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We actually just ordered Thai, but we'll save this for tomorrow." I followed them into the kitchen, noticing stainless steel cabinet handles, a digital frame looping abstract art, and freshly painted white walls where once there had been soft sage green. As Daniel excused himself to finish an email, I heard her, Shelby, in the hallway, whispering sharply, "I can't believe she just showed up again. Can't we tell her to text before coming over? It's like we have zero privacy." Her voice sliced through the silence. Daniel's reply was a mumble, hesitant. "She's just trying to help. You know how she is." "You mean suffocating?" "She needs boundaries, Daniel." My fingers froze around the teacup. The porcelain clicked against the spoon. My breath caught in my chest. My hands, the same. Ones that had soothed fevers, tied shoes, and packed lunches, suddenly felt foreign, unwanted. I placed the cup down gently, almost reverently, like I was putting the past to rest. "I should get going," I said when they returned to the kitchen. Avoiding their eyes, "Enjoy the lasagna." "Mom, you don't have to leave," Daniel said quickly. But the relief in his voice told another story, one that said you've stayed too long. That night, I sat alone at my dining table, the one Russell refinished by hand, the one where birthdays were celebrated and college acceptances toasted. I pushed food around my plate, the lasagna I had saved for myself now cold. The phone rang. It was Claire, Shelby's mother, and someone I once called a friend. "Elaine, how are you, dear? I haven't seen you in weeks." She sounded cheerful, unaware. "I'm well," I lied, swallowing down everything I wanted to scream. "Daniel and Shelby seem happy." "Oh, Shelby just adores the house, says it's perfect." "Yes, perfect." After we hung up, I opened my journal again. Note to self, they need space. Call first next time. But even as I wrote the words, they felt like resignation. Like surrendering my title as mom and accepting a new one. Unwelcome. And still, I loved them both. Time has a way of folding in on itself. One moment, you're holding your son's hand as he takes his first steps. The next, you're clutching a lace-trimmed napkin at Thanksgiving, wondering if he even remembers your favorite holiday. November came, early that year, the air crisper than usual, the leaves clinging to their final shades of gold and crimson. I threw myself into preparing a proper Thanksgiving feast. I polished the family silver until it gleamed like moonlight, arranged wildflowers in Harold's mother's crystal vase, and cooked every dish from scratch: stuffing, cranberry relish, roasted turkey with rosemary, and of course pumpkin. Pie made from Harold's handwritten recipe card. I waited. They were an hour late. When the door finally opened, Shelby waltzed in like she was arriving at a red carpet event. Designer heels, a silk blouse, too much perfume. She scanned the living room with a critical eye, as if evaluating the decor of a dated Airbnb. Daniel followed behind her, carrying a bottle of wine he barely acknowledged. "This place is exactly the same," Shelby said, running her manicured finger along the mahogany sideboard. "Don't you ever think about updating, Elaine? All these antiques make it feel like a museum." I steadied myself. I find comfort in familiar things. She tilted her head and gave a small, condescending smile. "Of course you do." During dinner, I tried to steer the conversation toward memories, laughter, maybe even reconnection. "I've been volunteering at the Community Literacy Center again," I offered between bites, watching Daniel cut his turkey without meeting my eyes. "Oh, speaking of downtown," Shelby interrupted, launching into a story about a modern art exhibition they'd attended. "Very avant-garde. Elaine, I doubt it would have been your style." The words weren't cruel, but they landed like slaps, just the same. Daniel nodded, murmuring agreement, and I felt another stitch come loose in the fabric that once connected us. After dinner, I served dessert. The pumpkin pie. I placed a slice in front of Shelby with a quiet hope that something, a smell, a taste, might awaken a memory, stir some gratitude. She set her fork down, staring directly at me. "Frankly, Elaine," she began, her tone too even, too rehearsed. "A house this size for someone your age seems dangerous and, well, wasteful." The room fell into a hush so deep that even the clock on the wall seemed to pause its ticking. "I manage just fine," I said, my voice like fine china, strong but fragile. "There are some lovely retirement communities in Medford," she continued. "Upscale, activities, friends your own age. It would be safer." "I'm not ready for that," I said calmly. "No one ever is," she replied with a quick, humorless laugh. "But let's be honest. What are you going to do with all these heirlooms? All this stuff?" "I've always planned to pass them down to Daniel," I answered, turning to look at my son. He busied himself with his napkin. Shelby waved a hand, as if swatting a fly. "We don't want to clutter our space with old things, and they're probably not worth much anyway." I wanted to scream, not because of what she said, but because Daniel didn't say a word. Not in defense of the antiques, not in defense of me. After they left, I walked into the living room to tidy up. That's when I noticed something missing. My grandmother's diamond brooch, the one with the sapphire center nestled in velvet inside the glass cabinet. Gone. Searched everywhere, drawers, behind furniture, under cushions. I told myself I had misplaced it. I refused to let my mind go to the darker possibility. But that night, my journal entry said what I could not speak aloud. Missing, one diamond brooch. Also missing, the son who would have once searched every corner of the earth to help me find it. My 79th birthday dawned quietly. The morning sunlight spilled through the lace curtains of my kitchen, soft and golden, brushing across the table where a single place was set. I made my coffee, like I always did, 2 sugars, 1 cream, and opened the window just enough to hear the birds singing in the backyard. I waited for my phone to ring. It didn't. By noon, a few calls had come in. Patricia, my old friend from the community garden, left a voicemail singing off-key and adorable. My neighbor, Darlene, dropped by with homemade jam. But from Daniel? Nothing. Not even a text. He must be planning a surprise, I told myself aloud, just to hear the sound of hope spoken into the room. He's probably coordinating something. Maybe dinner out. Maybe he's bringing a cake later. But as the afternoon light began to fade and long shadows reached across the floorboards, the truth sat across from me at the table, silent and undeniable. He had forgotten. I baked my own cake that evening, lemon with buttercream frosting, Russell's favorite to make for me. I followed the recipe from memory, wiping away tears between each step. When it was finished, I placed it carefully in a cake box, tied it with a ribbon, and changed into my favorite blue dress. If Daniel had forgotten me, I would remind him. The drive to Willow Street was strangely quiet. The street was lined with cars, which struck me as odd for a weekday. As I parked, I noticed the windows glowing warmly, flickers of laughter spilling out from inside. Music, clinking glasses. I walked to the front door, cake trembling in my hands. I rang the bell. The laughter inside stopped. Footsteps approached. The door opened, and there he was. Daniel. His face transformed instantly from celebration to dread. "Mom," he whispered. "What are you doing here?" I blinked, confused. "It's my birthday." Behind him, the dining room glowed with candlelight and crystal. Champagne glasses, guests in cocktail attire, a full spread laid out. There at the table sat Claire, Shelby's mother, raising a toast. Shelby appeared beside Daniel, holding a flute of champagne. Her expression was bright, too bright. "Elaine, oh my goodness, is it your birthday? We had no idea." My fingers tightened around the box, pressing the cardboard until it creased. I thought maybe we could have a slice together." Shelby's voice was airy and unbothered. "We're actually celebrating Daniel's promotion. If you'd called, we could have made space for you." Daniel, to his credit, looked embarrassed. "I'm so sorry, Mom. It completely slipped my mind." I handed him the box. "It's nothing. Enjoy it. Congratulations." "Won't you come in?" he asked, too softly, like someone offering a chair that had already been taken. "No," I replied, forcing a smile. "I don't want to intrude. Another time, maybe." As I turned and walked down the path, the sound of the party resumed behind me. My feet felt heavy, too heavy for the walk back to the car. When I sat inside, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror, an old woman in a beautiful dress with a ribbon imprint on her palms and no candles to blow out. That night, I sat in the dark. No singing, no wish, no one, a single message, lit up my phone just before midnight. "Sorry about tonight, Mom. Let's do dinner next week to celebrate. Love you." I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my journal and wrote, "Today, I turned 79. Today, I also realized there is no room for me in my son's new life." The sobs came then, deep, wrenching sobs that hollowed out my chest. I cried. For the little boy who once made me birthday cards with construction paper and crayons. I cried for the man who forgot me, not by accident, but by choice. 2 months passed, slowly, like winter refusing to let go of the land. I followed Shelby's protocol and called ahead before visiting, clutching the insurance forms Daniel had asked me to sign. Each ring of the phone twisted tighter, the knot in my stomach. "Elaine," Shelby answered, her voice cold and efficient. "Tomorrow at 2 works. Please be punctual." The next day, I arrived exactly on time. The sky was heavy with clouds, and the air smelled of damp earth and sawdust. As I pulled into the driveway of the Willow Street house, my house, I froze. Construction trucks were everywhere. A dumpster sat in the middle of what used to be my hydrangea garden. Debris littered the lawn I had once mowed alongside Russell. My chest tightened. I stepped carefully over power cords and splintered wood toward the front door, which hung slightly ajar. "Hello?" I called out, my voice nearly swallowed by the noise of drills and hammers. Daniel emerged from the living room, wearing slacks and a dress shirt, absurdly formal amid the chaos. Thanks for coming, Mom. You brought the paperwork? I held it up, distracted by the scene around me. What's going on? Just a few updates, he said vaguely. Shelby's in the back. I followed him down the hallway. Every step felt like walking through the ruins of memory. The warm, honey-colored. Wood floors had been stripped bare, replaced with cold gray tile. Crown molding that Russell and I had restored together was gone. My heart thundered in my ears. Then I saw it, the bay window. Workers were removing the stained glass panels, deep blue and amber pieces that had bathed the room in jeweled light for nearly a century. The same light that had danced on Russell's face the day we signed the mortgage. What are they doing? My voice cracked into a whisper. Before Daniel could answer, Shelby appeared, dressed in boots and a hard hat that seemed more fashion statement than protection. Elaine, perfect timing. What do you think? We're bringing this old place into the 21st century. I stared at her, mouth dry. Those windows, they're historic. You can't just... She waved her hand dismissively. They're dark, dated, and depressing. Besides, we want clean lines, brighter light. They're irreplaceable, I said. That stained glass is the soul of this house. Shelby's tone sharpened. You told us we could live here how we wanted. I told you that you could live here, I replied, steadying myself. I never said you could destroy it, a man with a clipboard approached. Is there a problem here? Shelby spoke quickly. Of course not. My mother-in-law's just surprised by the changes. I straightened my shoulders. Actually, I'd like to know if you've obtained the proper permits. This house is listed on the historical register. Any structural changes require approval. The man looked startled. Mrs. Kavanaugh, we were told all changes were authorized. I turned to Daniel. Did you sign off on this? He wouldn't meet my eyes. Shelby's composure cracked. This is exactly why we didn't tell you. There are always strings with you. You act like you're being generous, but you're just controlling. Her voice climbed. Get out. We want our space. There it was again. The knife, twisted this time. Daniel finally looked up, his face pale. Maybe it's better if you go, Mom. We'll talk later. I placed the papers gently on a dusty side table and turned. My legs trembled with each step back to the car, but it wasn't from sadness anymore. It was something sharper, hotter. Rage. In the car, I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles whitened. My breath came in short bursts. For the first time in years, maybe decades, I felt something clear and powerful rise in me. This wasn't just about a house. This was about the erosion of respect, of dignity, of boundaries. The time for silent suffering was over. Elaine, you need to check your financial statements. Patricia slid a cup of tea across the table to me, strong, with honey, just the way I liked it. We sat in her bright, sun-drenched kitchen, where the world still made sense. A place where mugs matched and nothing was stolen. Where I didn't feel like a stranger in my own life. After that day at the house, I had driven straight to her door. I couldn't face my own. Not yet. Patricia had been my friend for nearly 40 years. We taught in classrooms down the hall from one another and raised our children side by side. But she was also a retired attorney. She knew how to sit still through pain and look it in the eye. I told her everything. The distancing, the birthday, the renovations, the windows, and the words. Get out. We want our space. She listened without flinching, her fingers tracing the rim of her cup. This isn't just disrespect, she said finally. It's a pattern. And patterns always leave footprints. You said Daniel mentioned financial problems? I nodded. His tech investments collapsed. Or so he claimed. She leaned forward. Elaine, they're renovating a historic property. Do you have any idea what that costs? Where's that money coming from? The question sliced through me. The next morning, I called Mr. Landon, my accountant since Russell's death. He picked up on the first ring. "Elaine, I've been trying to reach you for months." 2 hours later, I sat across from him in his office as he spread out papers I'd never seen. Highlighter marks, account numbers I didn't recognize, dates circled in red. "We've received multiple alerts about suspicious activity," he said gently. "Unusual withdrawals, new credit cards opened in your name." I blinked, stunned. "That's impossible. I never received any notices." "That's what I feared," he said. "I thought you'd approve them directly with your banks, these documents told a terrifying story. Over $65,000 siphoned away in small strategic withdrawals. Charges on cards I'd never applied for, and most of it occurred within 24 hours of Daniel and Shelby's visits. I stared at the dates, the math, the evidence. "No," I whispered. "No, that's not." But it was. Mr. Landon slid another folder toward me. "I brought in a private investigator, just to be safe. He found these." Inside were partially completed property transfer forms. The signature at the bottom was mine. Except it wasn't. My name, forged in a hand that mimicked mine with eerie precision. He met my eyes. "Do you recall signing anything recently?" My heart sank. 3 weeks earlier. Daniel at my kitchen table. "A neat stack of documents. These are just some insurance forms, Mom," he had said, answering a call from Claire as I scribbled my signature distractedly. I couldn't breathe. My throat felt tight. My face flushed. "What do I do now?" I asked, voice small and cracking. Mr. Landon sat straighter. "First, we secure your assets. We change your mailing address. We freeze anything vulnerable. Then you decide. Do you want to pursue criminal charges?" I couldn't answer. Not yet. How do you even form those words? Criminal charges against your only child. But deep down, I knew. This wasn't a mistake. It was a betrayal. Silent. Strategic. Sharp. Russell had always worried about Daniel's softness, his weakness around stronger personalities. "He needs a firmer spine," he used to say, "or someone will bend him into theirs." Mr. Landon's voice brought me back. "There's one more thing. The investigator believes your mail has been tampered with. I strongly suggest rerouting all financial communications to a P.O. box." I nodded slowly, the weight of everything pressing against my ribs. And yet, in the center of the storm, something in me felt strangely calm. That evening, I passed the house on Willow Street on my drive home. My house. The construction trucks were still there, plaster dust in the air, the stained glass gone, just like my patience, just like my trust, but not my power. 3 days later, I sat in Richard Hartley's office, the same real estate broker who had helped Russell and me buy our first home 4 decades earlier. His office smelled like cedar and old paper, the kind of place where decisions quietly reshaped entire lives. "The market is strong right now," he said, flipping through listings on his tablet. "Historic homes are especially hot with out-of-state buyers." "I want a private sale," I said, folding my hands on the table. "Discreet. No signs in the yard. Serious offers only." Richard raised an eyebrow. "And the current occupants?" My attorney will handle the notice, I replied. "There's no lease. I'm the legal owner. I'm not obligated to offer them anything." He nodded, still curious but too respectful to pry. "May I ask why now?" I looked him in the eye. "Let's just say I'm simplifying my portfolio." The truth was far messier. That same afternoon, I opened 2 new bank accounts that only I could access. No more linked cards, no more hidden transactions. Then I walked into the Ashland Community Arts Center and enrolled in a watercolor painting class. A dream I had shelved decades ago in favor of PTA meetings and lesson plans. If I was rebuilding my life at 79, I'd start with color. By the end of the week, Mr. Goldstein, my attorney, had drafted the formal notification. It was delivered via certified mail, signature required. The letter was clean, legal, without apology. This letter serves as official notification that the property located at 409 Willow Street is being prepared for sale. Further details will follow. I imagined Shelby reading it, lipstick-stained coffee mug in hand, fury curling at the edges of her mouth. The thought didn't bring pleasure, but it brought something else. Relief. Meanwhile, the investigator hired by Mr. Landon had compiled enough evidence to fill a binder: forged signatures, overlapping transaction dates, withdrawal patterns tied directly to their visits, identity theft, mail tampering, fraud. And yet, the most damning thing wasn't on any bank statement. It was how easily they had written me off, as a burden, as a woman too old to notice. That Friday, I attended my first watercolor class. The instructor was a gentle woman named Margaret with silver curls and hands that moved like music. "Don't try to control the water," she said. "Let it speak." I dipped my brush in cobalt blue and dragged it across the paper. The pigment bloomed like a secret breaking open. Later that evening, my phone buzzed. A message from Claire. "Vanessa is livid. Says you blindsided them. We need to talk. Tomorrow, if possible." So she knew. Mother and daughter, still in lockstep even after all I'd shared. I replied with a simple, "Yes, come by after lunch." But I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I pulled out every piece of documentation and organized it on my living room coffee table. 4 folders: financial fraud, property title, forged documents, sale agreement. Each one labeled in my old principal's handwriting, neat, firm, unmistakable. This was no longer just a mother protecting what was hers. This was a woman reclaiming what had never stopped being hers: her voice, her choices, her dignity. The next morning, I received the offer. 15% above asking, Richard said over the phone. They're retired art collectors from Seattle, want to restore the stained glass. I smiled, tears pricking my eyes. Accept it. As I hung up, the new house phone rang, the unlisted line only close friends and my legal team knew. "Mrs. Kavanaugh?" A soft voice. "This is Rose Martinez. I worked for your husband at the firm." I remembered her. Meticulous, kind. She hesitated. "I saw your name come up in some online posts. I think I have something that belongs to you, something about Vanessa." My breath caught. Within hours, a courier delivered a sealed envelope to my doorstep. Inside was a manila folder in Russell's handwriting. Taylor V. Elder exploitation. Watch closely. A detailed file going back years. Vanessa's employment records. 3 terminations. Multiple internal investigations. Clients over 70. No formal charges, only settlements and silent exits. At the bottom, a note in Russell's elegant script. If Vanessa Taylor ever becomes financially entangled with Elaine, this file should be delivered to authorities immediately. He'd seen it. He'd seen her. Even in death, Russell was protecting me. That evening, as the sun set over the garden, I opened my journal. For the first time in months, I wrote with clarity, not grief. They thought I was too old to notice, too kind to resist. They forgot I was forged in silence and raised on steel. Tomorrow, I lay the truth on the table, and I won't flinch. Claire arrived at precisely 3 o'clock, but she wasn't alone. Daniel and Shelby trailed behind her like shadows that didn't belong in the sunlight. I stood at the doorway, my hands calm, my back straight. "I thought this was between us," I said softly. Claire shifted uncomfortably. "They were with me when I got your message. I thought maybe it was time." I nodded once and stepped aside. "Come in." We sat in the living room, the same place I once hosted Christmas mornings, book club teas, and baby showers. Now it held something heavier than any of those days combined: truth. The 4 folders sat on the coffee table like courtroom exhibits. Daniel spoke first. "Mom, Claire said you have concerns about the house, about us." "Not concerns." I said evenly. Evidence, Shelby scoffed. Elaine, please. You've been confused lately, forgetting conversations, overreacting. Maybe someone's been influencing you. Claire flinched at her daughter's words, but said nothing. Not yet. I'm not confused, I replied, opening the first folder. I'm clear. I slid the first document across the table. A bank statement with marked withdrawals totaling over $65,000. Then another, and another. Daniel paled. That's not possible. I opened the second folder, the property transfer document, forged with my name. You gave me this to sign during a phone call with Claire about her husband's health. You said it was insurance paperwork. You lied. His mouth opened, then closed. A man searching for an excuse that wouldn't make him smaller. The third folder was the most damning. Russell's file on Vanessa. I saw Claire's eyes widen when she read the internal memos, the flagged accounts, the note in Russell's own handwriting. Shelby lunged for the file. Stop, Claire said firmly, standing for the first time. Just stop, Vanessa. Shelby's mask cracked. You're siding with her? She's senile. No, Claire said, voice trembling. She's right. And I knew, deep down, I always knew something was wrong. Claire turned to me, eyes full of sorrow. After our last conversation, I contacted Vanessa's former employers. They wouldn't say much, but their silence said enough. I also found records from our family trust. We paid settlements to make things disappear. Vanessa's face twisted with rage. You had no right to go through Dad's records. I had every right, Claire snapped back. I should have done it years ago. I opened the last folder, the signed contract of sale. The house has been sold. The new owners take possession in 6 weeks. You can't do this, Vanessa screamed. We'll fight you. We'll prove you're incompetent. With what proof? I asked, calm as a winter lake. The posts you made online? The forged documents? The financial trail that leads directly to you? Daniel looked broken, smaller, older. I didn't know. About the money, I swear I didn't. You didn't ask either, I said. You didn't look. You didn't protect me. Silence settled like snow over the room. Later that week, we signed a final agreement. Vanessa would relinquish all. Claims in exchange for me not pressing criminal charges. Claire helped pay for Shelby's move to Arizona. Daniel left the house quietly, settling into a modest apartment downtown. He filed for divorce days later. It wasn't justice, but it was closure. Weeks passed, and slowly, healing began. I joined a financial literacy group for seniors, sharing my story with others who had been taken advantage of, by caregivers, by family, by strangers. We formed something rare, a place where pain met purpose, at our first annual fundraiser in the garden behind my home. I stood in front of 70 people and said, "My name is Elaine Kavanaugh." And it took me 79 years to remember that love without respect is not love at all. As applause rippled through the crowd, I saw him, Daniel, standing alone, holding something in his hands. I wasn't sure I should come, he said, but I brought something. He handed me a weathered leather journal. Russell's. She took it, Daniel said quietly. Vanessa. After the funeral. She thought there might be something in it about her. She was right. Inside were 2 letters, one for me, one for Daniel. Russell's handwriting was steady and timeless. Integrity isn't about being perfect, Elaine. It's about wholeness, being true to who you are, even when the world tries to shrink you. Daniel wiped his eyes. I read mine. He warned me. He knew I might lose myself. I nodded. He was a wise man. Later, as the sun dipped below the trees and music floated through the garden, I found myself standing beside my son once more. Not as the boy I had raised, not as the man who had failed me, but as someone still learning, still trying, and I had never felt stronger. To every woman who's ever felt invisible or dismissed, Elaine's story is your reminder. It's never too late to draw a boundary, never too far to start again, and never too small to reclaim your voice. Silence isn't weakness. Quiet strength changes everything. If this moved you, subscribe, comment, and share where you're watching from. Your story matters. Your dignity endures, and so does your worth.